Welcome to Accelerating Success. Today's training will focus on our vocabulary energizers, and everybody loves for the classroom to be energized. You can find these by going underneath the 5th grade, 4th grade, or 3rd grade topics. We're going to do our 5th grade physical properties of matter for today, just to give you a broad overview over how each of these works. Now, when you click on the vocabulary energizer, you're going to notice that they are broken up by DOK1, DOK2, and DOK3. So the depth of knowledge level is different on these vocabulary energizers, and that's going to determine how, where, and when you use them. Some vocabulary energizers, like money makers, are DOK1, so children can jump right off in there and they're ready to go. And some of them require a little bit more thinking and a little bit more planning on the teacher's part. So let's jump off into some of these. We're going to go through as many of these as we can, and I'm just going to roll through them one by one. But we'll also give you more support about how to get more information about them at the end of the video as well. So we're going to begin with our money makers, I do believe. Yes, money makers. And you're going to see we've got lots of money makers: properties, matter, mixture, solution, particles, unequal forces, investigation. So you've got a bunch of those there. We're going to jump off into our money makers for properties of matter, I do believe. Yes. You're going to notice they start off muted. So right here, I'm able to click, and we're able to go full screen, and our music will pop on. The music makes this a lot more engaging. Let's see if we can do it with a little bit. So when you click start, the children are going to have 60 seconds to answer a question. The ability to attract or repel certain metals. So we're going to go magnetism. Every time they get it correct, they're going to get some money off in their bank. But the moment that they get an answer choice wrong, it's going to tell them this was the correct answer, and they lose everything, and they get kicked out, and they get the option to go back to the beginning and play again. I've seen teachers use this for free time, like children can work collaboratively to earn free time. The children get so addicted at trying to get $1 million, they'll sit here and go over it over and over again. I've seen teachers put this up on a board and use it as an activity that the children work collaboratively with on the interactive touch boards. There's bunches of different ways that you can use these vocabulary energizers. You just have to kind of get in the energizer and make sure that it's a energizer that can be used by students, or if it's something that has to happen whole group, or if it can be individualized or grouped. The next one that we're going to look at is our game time. Game time focuses on TPR, so that is total physical response. This is where you're getting up and you're using your body. So our physical science is going to focus on one sport. Our earth science is going to focus on, I believe, soccer. And I believe that life science focuses on football. So we're going to pull out, and we're going to start with our earth science. I'm going to go ahead and mute that. And we're going to start out with our earth science. Now, the way game time works, of course, it always is going to start with rules and instructions. And you can click on there and the video will pop up. But you've got me, so I'm just going to tell you. So we're going to click on this. The teacher can select a word. So let's do bowling. And we come here to blowing. You're going to bring 2 children to the front of the room. They're going to turn their backs to the board. A lot of times teachers will just ball a piece of paper up because they're going to be throwing that empty piece of paper to see who can hit the correct answer first. And so when I click show answers, boom, all of these are going to pop up. And the first child that is able to hit that the boiling degree of water is 100 degrees Celsius, that child gets to have game time. Now, when you click on game time, this is actually the football one. As soon as you click on game time, there are going to be receivers that are running routes, and the student has got to throw the ball or the piece of paper to a receiver and hit them in order for their team to get an extra point. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to put the music on because it's cool.
It's game time.
And so they have 10 seconds to throw that and to hit the receiver. And so imagine these children, they're at the front, they're bobbing up and down, and they're throwing, and they get excited because they get to play game time, and then we're right back to the table of contents, and we get to start all over again. And so we've got physical science with football, and we have earth science, and we have life science as well. And so those are really, really cool, and we hope that you enjoy those. The children normally love them. The next one that we have is our Cash Quest. And Cash Quest is pre-made Jeopardy games aligned to the standards. So you can select the number of teams, and then all you have to do is hit start, and boom, sink or float. This is only for $100. They're going to say density. What is density? Oh my goodness, I forgot. But if you do it, you can give the team points right there. They get 100 points for what is density. The next thing you're going to see is called fact or fiction. This is really, really cool. So fact or fiction is a game board. I can take you back to the beginning. The children are able to select a random board. So let's say I say random board 2. So for random board 2, A is my fiction. So imagine children are watching a video or they're processing a text or a child is given a press, like any kind of thing where the children would have to process information and you want them focusing very hard. So as they're processing the information, the children are recording different facts from the video or they're annotating different facts from the text. But they're going to find one thing and they're going to make it fiction. And then they're going to hide their answers. And then the other children get to analyze their answer choices and see if they can identify which answer was the fiction. So here they see fact, that's fact news, that's fact news. But if they click this one, they realize that is fake news. That is not the one that we were looking for. That is the fiction. And so this is a really cool vocabulary energizer that can be used in so many different ways to have children to identify facts, to identify one piece of fiction, and then have other children to analyze their answer choices and see if they can figure out which one is there. I've also seen teachers do this as well. So the teachers might be watching the video and then the child gets to come up and see if they can figure out which piece is fiction. The next thing that we have is Bingorama. Bingorama is awesome. You know what Bingorama is? It is bingo. Yes, it is bingo. And so with one click, we come here and we have our Bingorama at the top. You're going to have the teacher board. At the bottom, you're going to have the student boards. The student boards are very easy to use. Let's pop that table of contents out. And so with the student boards, the children are able to come there and they're able to have their board. And so with one click, they are able to take their free space. And then as the teacher is working their teacher board, we have the student boards that are right there and ready to go. And so this is what the teacher board looks out. Let's go full screen with it. So the teacher is going to start their Bingorama machine. They're going to click on one.
The force that occurs when two things rub against each other.
All right. So hopefully the children are able to pick fiction or friction. I said fiction. We just did the fact or fiction. So they're able to pick friction. And then whenever a child says they have bingo, you're able to click right here. You're able to see the words on the board. And we're able to see, did they get a Bingorama or did they miss it? And so that is Bingorama. It's a really cool activity for the teachers and the children to get engaged in. And so once again, let me say this, the teacher board will be projected on the teacher screen and each student will have their own individual device where they're able to pick their own Bingorama board. All right, next we have You Don't Say, and this is Taboo for Science. This one is so much fun. So one child comes to the front. That child is sitting in a seat and the seat turns away from the board so they cannot see what's on the board. And then the teacher gives their spiel that the child who chose to come up to the front, they got the easy job. It's the easiest job in the whole room because the hard job is on the class to give really good clues. Because if they don't give good clues, there's no way that the family is going to, or the class is going to be successful. So we're going to take circuits. When you come here, you notice everything is hidden. That is on purpose. We don't want the children running off in our minds. You can select a different timer. So if you needed less time, let's say they were getting these really, really fast and you wanted to give them 30 seconds or 45 seconds or 1 minute. When you're ready, the first thing I would release is the mystery word. And then I would release the words that you cannot say. We like to give children 30 seconds or 20 seconds to process these and to start thinking of their clues. But one really cool upgrade that we've made is that now you can actually add in a few words that you have used in your class. So sometimes we say open and broken. And then sometimes we might say closed, it flows. Or we might not be able to say cell phone or something like that. The teacher actually can add in commonly used words that you've used in your classroom with hopes that the job is we're training children to process information and to find creative ways to process this information. So they might have to jump to a real world connection. They might have to jump to a question involving an activity that you did off in your classroom. And so we're forcing that brain to take all of these different paths to get to that information. And then of course we start our timer and then they get that 60 seconds to see if the person at the front can guess the word circuit without anybody giving away any of these words at the bottom. So this is Taboo for Science. Towards the end of the year, You can always come here and we can do a random taboo, and this just runs through everything for physical science randomly. And so let's just look at some of these words. So we've got chemical energy, and we can see how many of the ones the children can get working as a class without the timer expiring. So that is you don't say for science. The next one that we have on here is categories. Now this will be your quietest 2 minutes of your day. We're going to go full screen again. We've got our wheel going. For sanity's sake, I'm going to stop that timer right there. And so with categories, you're going to have a table of contents once again. So if we're just using this one time during the classroom and we want to go specifically to conductors, we can go to conductors, and then we've got our wheel, and we're going to stop our wheel, and then the children have 1, 2, or 3 minutes to generate as many conductors as they can that start with the letter M. Now they only get points for the ones that they generate that nobody else in the class comes up with. That's a novel idea, is the name of that activity. So that is categories. It's really, really fun. The children get to really kind of process. It'll make a lot of real world connections. And then we can go right back to our table of contents and do another word if this is a review. And if it's not a review and you're just using this during the day for an activity, you can just use the table of contents, find the words you need, and keep it moving. Another one that we have that's a really, really interesting one is word masters. Now, word masters actually functions the opposite of taboo. So let's take a look at word masters. So word masters comes and it hits it from a different approach. You can still come here, you still use your table of contents, but now the children are actually having to type in the word. And so they don't get the word at the beginning. What they're going to get is they're going to get a set of clues. And based on these clues, they're going to see, can I figure out what vocabulary word within 1 minute, 45 seconds, or 30 seconds is associated with these clues? Now, we can use the vocabulary list. If they truly need that extra level of support, it's there. You can show and you can hide it. But the ideal is to see, can they realize that this represents the word boiling just based on the words that are given here? And then with one click, we're able to submit it and we can keep going, or we can go back to the table of contents for that as well. And then we also have this random generator that's going to start the timer instantly. And then the children have to go boiling. It has to be spelled correctly. And then they just keep going from word to word to word to word to word and see if they can become the ultimate word master. And so that's a really fun activity. We also have points pyramid. I know we have a lot, don't we? I'm telling you, we just keep going and going. We're like the Energizer bunny. So with points pyramid, the instructions are always there as always if you need to go back and get reminded of the instructions. But since I'm here, points pyramid is just that the children, once again, you'll have one child come to the front and they'll turn their backs. Now this is going to connect the concepts. And so this is going to connect all things property of matter, or all things mixtures, or all things force. And so we're coming here and the child has their back turned, and then you're going to open up the window by clicking on it. And then the other children have to get the child to guess number 1. And when they get number 1, they can go to number 2. And when they get number 2, they can go to number 3. When they get number 3, they can go to 4, or they can go to 5, 7, and then ultimately the 10-pointer. And so how they would look for property of matters is you would begin, they would ask questions to give them conductors. You notice this one's a lot more free. There's no words that you can't say. If the child guesses conductors, they go to magnetism, mass, insulators, solubility, and then ultimately volume. And so we're making connections between all of these words and them being properties of matter. We've got it for tools. It's just all kinds of really, really cool activities. And all of these are our points pyramid. And so we're going to close that one out. And the next one that we're going to look at is deductions. All right. Now, the previous ones that I just showed you are DOK2. Now we've moved into our DOK3. Now, for our DOK3, we've got deductions. I don't know if anybody grew up on Guess Who, but I grew up on Guess Who. And Guess Who was a fun game where you would have these people dressed in all these crazy outfits. And you were, each of you would have a board and your partner would have a board. And you would be asking yes or no questions to see who could guess the person that the other person has selected in the fewest number of times. So for example, if my board said paperclip and the board on your device said wooden blocks, or if the teacher was playing against the children, the teacher can actually write one of these on a sticky note, and then the children can ask her questions and they can see the teacher could say, well, you only have 3 questions to see if you can get it right, right? Or 2 questions or 4 questions, depending on the class. So let's say that my object was metal washers and you don't know it, but you ask me, is my object less dense? That means that it floats, or is it more dense than, or is my object less dense than water? And I would say, no, it's not. And so then you're going to put down everything that floats. And so then you're going to ask me another question. You're going to say, okay, is your object, is it magnetic? And I'm going to say, yes, it is magnetic. And so then on your board, you're going to close down everything that's not magnetic. And so this is the process that you would go through, and you continue to go through it and ask questions over and over again. And so this is a really cool game where children can actually challenge each other. Each child can have their own device. You can have 2 people playing against 2 other people, or like we said, you can do the teacher challenge where the children are actually asking questions and the teacher limits the number of questions that they get before they have to make a guess. And so that is deductions. And we have that for physical, earth, life, earth, space. It's just all kinds of different deductions. So check those out. The next VOK3 that we have is a you can do it. This is another get up and move activity, or it can be done in groups. There's all kinds of different ways that you can do this one. Let your creativity flow. So we come here. Once again, we've got a wheel. We've got a 3-part wheel, a 4-part wheel, and a 5-part wheel. Each wheel is going to have different options on it. And so we can come here and we can select a term if let's say we're just doing refraction. So we can move it to refraction, and then we could stop the wheel. And so every child has to represent the concept of refraction by drawing it, or they can rap it, or we might end up with dancing it, and that's a really fun one. So you can get them to work in groups and say your group has 5 minutes to come up with a dance that represents refraction. And so then they're able to go for that. And so that's a really cool activity as well. Okay. And so this one is our TPR, you can do it, physical science. And we've got our 4-part wheel. We have our 5-part wheel, and y'all are able to use those like that. All right. Next, last but certainly not least, is going to be our ACC imagination. Our ACC imagination is Pictionary for science. So with Pictionary, you're able to randomly select a word, or you can intentionally select a word, whatever works better for you. So we're just going to do a random for today. So there's mixtures, and you're able to jump to the imagination board, and the children are able to draw, and you can change colors and all kind of different things over here. And so you might want some reds, whatever you want, and they have a certain amount of time to draw it and get the children to guess that the word that they are talking about is mixtures. If you have touchscreen boards, this is an amazing activity that you can use to get them to do that. We also have a double point, so we're bringing in our cause and effect, our cross-cutting concepts. So this is a really cool one. Let's say that we go to that same concept and we're looking at mixtures again, but now we want the children to analyze mixtures, but they have to also get the other children to guess. Not only are they trying to get you to understand mixtures, but you're trying to express that mixtures can be formed by a cause and effect. So I'm putting all of the objects together or something along those lines. It would be really work if it was great if it was a solution and you were talking about a special kind of solution, and the cause and effect with things dissolve. And so there's just all kind of different ways that you can take it, of course, and that definitely raises the complexity of it. But that is our goal. We want things to be fun, but we also want them to be complex. And so that's our ACC imagination, which is Pictionary for science. That drawing tool that you saw is the ACC scratch pad, and that's actually available right here too. So if you're ever in the middle of a lesson and you want the children to represent something pictorially or anything like that that you have a use for, you also have that available. So that is our vocabulary energizers. We thank you so much for that. We also have our site guide. So if you have any more questions that I didn't answer today, you can always come to the site guide. And off in the site guide, we're going to answer popular questions. We're going to show you how to navigate the website. We're going to talk about online modules, think tanks, and all of these other valuable resources. And we've also got our teacher training videos available for you. So thank you so much for joining us on our training today. And even more so, thank you for joining our Accelerating Success family.